we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.
Donde está el spookio? Spooky, 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 spooky. It's almost September, which means it's almost Halloween, which means it's almost spoopy time. Here at the OGG Adventures, broadcasting from Site B at 9 o'clock in the morning, 73 degrees and mostly cloudy. Today we are looking at Vaesen, Nordic Horror role-playing from Free League. This was part of that huge Humble Bumble, 57 games for $40. Sadly, that one went down. There's a new Humble Bumble up featuring a bunch of winners from the Ennies. I would say it's about 80% good, 20% fluff, but yeah. So what is Nordic horror role-playing and how is it different than normal role-playing? I don't know. Let's find out. So let's do a first look at this and see what we think. Obviously, it's Free League, so we're going to have a lot of art and a lot of fluff. I love you, Free League. I love your games, but... So yeah, let's see. First, let's see if we can make the picture a little bigger. Boop, boop. Okay. So this is the cover. And based upon the picture, I'm saying it's sort of a Victorian time period, maybe 1600s, 1700s. And he's fighting some type of troll beast thing against a stone with swirly things on. What are these called? Crane stones? Rune stones? Whatever. All right. So this is 232 pages, which for Free League is small. It's made up of making the character, skills, talents, combat, fear and gear. This, I guess, the secret society that does the hunting of the monsters, what the mythic North is like, the world of Vaesen, the mystery, how to run this, and then some sample games, and a life path table. So, what do we know about Nordic horror, and how is it different than regular horror? We've got an introduction with this little spooky pixie kid here, but what is Nordic horror? Let's see, do we have some? The only example they give is Spirits and Monsters of Scandinavian Folklore by John Egerhans. So what is Nordic horror as opposed to regular horror? Just, I guess just because it takes place in that part of the world, and it's much more about, environmental horror when you're, living in Norway, Sweden, where it's, winter and dark and cold, and you have these epic forests that are hundreds of thousands of years old, and maybe you're by yourself or in a small village, where you don't see a lot of people, and you're constantly surrounded by these giant mountains. And I guess that could be, sort of to give certain environment, and then, spookiness, what we might call ghost. They might be, spirits and angry forest gods, and their monsters and horrors might be much more, natural. Like we have one Bigfoot here, but they have lots of Bigfoots over there, lots of cryptids, lots of forest things, lots of things where you go in the dark forest by yourself and it's foggy, and, you hear weird noises, and you look and you see this weird misshapen shadow, and you go home and you scream how you saw the Blockwalk. And everybody's like, oh, the Blockwalk is outside. Yeah, blah, it's going to steal the kids. It's going to kill the ghosts. We have to sacrifice your daughter. My daughter? Yes, specifically your daughter, Steve. Nobody else's daughter. Why is it my? I don't know, just because. And then, you find out years later when technology is advanced and we're able to research it, and we find out, oh, the Blockwalk was a deer that he saw in the fog. That was standing up on his hind legs to eat something. Because as time moves forward, and as science moves forward, and as the investigation material moves forward, and as we step out of the age of myth, and we go back and look at these sightings, all the Bigfoot sightings from across the world, And it's like, well, 70 to 80% of those Bigfoot sightings was just an animal standing on its hind legs. You know, a bear standing on its hind legs, which bears can do. A wolf standing on its hind legs, which wolves can do. You know, a gazelle or a goat or a moose or a horse standing on its high legs to, you know, reach something. A pie, not as common, but sure, you know, or scratching its back against something. And you see that through the fog and you see this humanoid figure and you're like, Bigfoot. So I guess that's what it means. Just much more environmental, much more emotional, much more deeper, you know, in that European folklore. Well, I know who drew this picture. Kempo. So yeah, you know, pixies, fairies, gremlins, goblins, boglins, all those European folklore fairy tale type monsters. The mythic north, the mythic forest, the mythic overland. How is this different than Symborium, their other mythic forest? This one's on Earth, sort of. Here's got a little boglin trying to steal a lantern. Grimm's, a lot more Grimm's fairy tales. What dice is this? Is this another year zero, or does it use a different system? It has its own spooky dice specifically for it, but it looks like it's using the D66 system. So I guess it's year zero. Does have safety tools, does have the 6 principles of running horror. Vaesen is neither good nor evil. It's just nature. Nature is dark and dangerous. The world is changing. Knowledge and cunning are the keys. The journey is part of the goal. You will not survive without each other. So those are the 6 principles. Well, but this is horror. So we're supposed to split up, right? So here we have our player characters, and we can definitely, again, see the timeline. So we're going late 18th, early 19th century, I would say, with this look. Very gloom, very dark type family. You know, here's grandpa, here's probably the 2 grandchildren, and then here's his son and daughter, and then here's their, you know, or stepson and daughter, and their unhappy looking child, and the unhappy looking child's dog. You know, something horrible's House of Usher is going to happen to them. So he's got how to build a character, archetype, age, name, attributes, talent, motivation, trauma, dark secret, relationship, other stuff. Name, motivation, trauma, dark secret. Do I have to have a dark secret? Does every character have to have a dark secret? What if my character doesn't have a dark secret? What if it's like a really minor dark secret, like I don't wear matching socks? What's your dark secret? I'm not wearing shoes. But I guess in order, you've got to have a dark secret that, you know, House of Usher, Bly Manor. I've got to take advantage of that fact that you've got, you know, that something. So our attributes are physique, precision, logic, empathy. We have skills, talents, and resources. And your relationship with each other player, which I don't really thinks needs to be a rule. You know, does that, you know, I don't know. That's like I don't need this on a character record sheet. We're going to develop a relationship as we play together. And the relationship we have at the beginning probably was going to change. If I could write down friends with Igor, but does not trust Selvin, and then the game progresses and I'm like 3 games in, you know what? I fucking hate Igor. So, yeah. Personality games, image descriptions, conditions, advantage, disadvantage, experience points, the archetypes. So instead of classes, we have archetypes. I eventually think that the archetype style of thinking will replace class base. You know, I'm not a fighter. I'm a guy with a sword. My archetype is soldier. We have life path. Then we have some examples. We got the academic. We got a doctor. We got a hunter. We got an occultist. We got an officer. We got a priest. We got a private detective, Sherlock Holmes. So now we're looking at, you know, Holmesian Victorian horror. So I guess that's when this takes place. And yeah, if you see that all the characters have motivations, trauma, so they're very much year zero. We got a servant. So, you know, like where the servant is actually more competent than the character they're helping. Vagabond. Yeah, writer. Then we got your skills and skill tests, failed tests. You know, you roll have precision 2 and stealth. And then, you know, you just roll dice, add modifier, 6-siders, failed tests, single roll, multiple dice rolls, chances of success and failure based upon rolls, advantage and disadvantage, gear and extra successes. The skills are agility, close combat, forge, medicine, range combat, stealth, investigate, learning. I got a lot of learning on me. Vigilance, inspiration, manipulation, observation. And then we've got the talents. Bookworm, Editorial, Army Medic, Doctor's talents. Each class has a specific talent. We're going to waste a whole bunch of pages explaining those. And we got combat, which if you're familiar with year 0, is going to just be more of the same, plus adding in the spookiness. So it's just like is there like a timeline? I used to think there was a timeline, you know, Tales from the Loop spirals into Things from the Flood, spirals into Labyrinth. And somewhere in there is the Electric State in the timeline, but that's a different part of the world, right? So it's like Vaesen happens. Is it Vaesen what happens before Tales from the Loop? I mean, it's on Earth. We got a whole nice looking critical hit table and rules on diseases and special effects like fear. Gear. Fear and gear. Sounds like a wrestling team. The Society. This is the secret organization that stands alone against the ever-crouching darkness of these supernatural horrors, armed only with their, guts and luck and knowledge and guns to try and fight back the spookiness. And the different types, and these look like they're kind of based upon some of the real weird ones, because there was a lot of weird societies back then, and there still are, but definitely there seemed to be more weird societies in that, because they're all the ones we know. But then there was like all the gentleman clubs and all these different, secret organizations. Why? Now, I don't know. I don't know if this is the place to try and even comprehend the need for secret societies, the need for cloistered men's clubs, and secret orders and stuff like that. I'm sure there's historical implications and social implications, and obviously because it is the 18th century, we're discussing things that happened back then, and it was a weird time. So here we got some notes on the different societies and what you could do with a society. What the society gives you, again, that those faction rules. I love those. I love that, there's something that video games do very well, where the more energy you invest in a craft, or the more energy you invest doing stuff for the faction, your rank with the faction goes up. And as your rank with the faction goes up, you have access to, better stuff. And those are, in place to make sure that you actually interact with the faction and the NPCs positively, with the idea that the more I'm friends with them, the better chance I have of getting better stuff from them, as opposed to, I'm going to kill this guy. Building a faction and what each faction's abilities are. So you can build your own faction. You can build your own secret headquarters. Here's a little example. Then here's some North rules on the Mythic North. And the city of Uppsala, where that starts. I think Uppsala's a real place, isn't it? You guys can't see anything. Why is it not showing? Oh, there it is. UPSALA. UPSALA. It's in Sweden. It's the fourth largest city in Sweden. Okay. So I knew that was a real place. So yes, now we know exactly where we are. Mythic North Sweden. Here's what's really going on in that part of the world at this period in time. And then here's all the other stuff, so and how that interacts. And we can use big words like kinescope. And here's what the Mythic North looks like. And what's the difference between the Mythic North and the normal forest, and the normal North, and that blending of everyday hardship that was that part of the world during that time period, 18th century, and the transition into the age of steam and the age of industry, and stepping out of the previous age where there was much more individualism. You had one guy who made shoes, and that was his thing. And then in comes in the age of industrialism. 18th century's around. We've got steam, we've got automation. Suddenly, there's a bunch of guys and machines that can do the exact same thing that one guy did in half the amount of time for half the amount of money. Sure, the skill level isn't as good, but mass production is changing the world. And as we push against the old and expand into the woods and begin the deforestation and the terraforming, the woods start to push back. And those are the conflicts, and those are the moral quandary of setting it in the real world and setting it based upon real mythology and real folklore is, am I doing the right thing? The monsters are resisting because we're killing their land. We're invading on them. We built our house in their house, and they're reacting the same way as we would react if somebody came into our house and built a house. So are the monsters in the wrong? Is there a way to resolve this peacefully? Can we change history in the game? Or are we just doomed to being Hellboy and shooting the monsters in the head every time we see them? Because there's no way to come to a thing. Technology would play a huge part. I mean, just the 18th century, there was so much, and so Trollbridge, this was farmland. And then suddenly it's a city, and there's still people here who have watched that change in their lifespan. This happened again in the 50s and again in the 80s, and it's happening now, where you can see an entire transition. So in this case, the fluff is important, and the building on that world, much the same way of the world of Tales from the Loop or the Electric State, because it's based upon a real place and real folklore. And you have to be careful when you're writing that type of game and writing that type of world that you don't, insult someone. You don't present it incorrectly. So if nothing else, it's educational. Here's talking more about the Vaesen, the spirit, and the different types of monsters, elves, spirits, whatever you want to call them in the world. It says there's like 21 of them. The nature of the spites, are they good? Are they evil? Are they just, elemental forces? That you just can't comprehend them because they're not us, They're completely different. They're aliens. And then what kind of magical powers they have, and trollcraft, and just a lot of good research. Curses were very big back then. Midsummer's Night's Dream, different types of magic items and spells, and some of the monsters. Here's the Ash Tree Wife, the Book Horse, that horse you're never supposed to get on, the Church Grim, the Fairy, Ghost. We have a lot of Ghost, Giants, the tragedy of the giants having to fade away and retreat and turn into mountains because there's no space for them anymore. The Lindworm. Well, that's a name I actually recognize. The Mare, nightmares, witches, whatever you want to call them. Tiddlies. Oh no, we can't read this. It's got tiddlies in it. Oh no. Mermaids. Merman, Dad. Merman. Ghost children. We have some ghost children here in Ventura. I've talked about them before. The Ojai vampires, as they were known. I think, I don't know why they're calling them vampires since they're not vampires, but that's the name they've been called. And, still don't know if it's a, fake, that these sightings of these weird ghost children that started right after the fires, the 2018 fires, or if they actually are real spirits, real ghost children that are, were victims of the 2018 fires. Then we got these and more: crows, gnomes, undead, sea serpents. Every lake in the world, if it's large enough, has a sea monster. That's something I found out when I was doing my research on cryptids. Bigfoot and sea monsters are huge. You're going to find a Bigfoot anywhere you go, possibly more than one. I mean, every state has a Bigfoot. Several parts of the state have their own Bigfoot. Where I live, we have a Bigfoot. And is our Bigfoot the same Bigfoot as that they have up north in Sacramento? And is that Bigfoot the same as the Bigfoot that they have in Eureka? And is that the same? Is that all just one Bigfoot? Or are there a lot of Bigfoots? How come, Yeah, so anywhere you go, you're going to find sea serpents and Bigfoots. I don't know why, but you do. Here's more, grigs and insect sprites, whatever you want to call them. Trolls, got to have trolls. Leprechauns, or whatever you want to call these. Anthropomorphic cute animals. Werewolf, their castle. Will of the Wisps. Woodwife. All these are based upon real things and some example NPC characters to talk to. How to run a Vaesen mystery. What is your investigator up to today? What job requires their specific skill set? Ooh, hobbit hole. Is this just a normal crime? Or a supernatural crime? The murders of the Rue Morgue. Was it just normal murders, or there's something more going on? The haunting of Hill House is just something normal? Boxed up plumbing. Is there really a ghost? Is there more than one ghost? Why is there a ghost? What do we need to do to make the ghost happy so it'll go away? How to run a game, flavor of the game, outline, Venn diagram of the game, the 5-room dungeon style. Running a mystery, a lot of stuff on running a mystery, a lot of tables. Here's how to make a mystery. That's nice, thank you. Random table, how to do a campaign. There's different styles of how to be a DM for this style of game. An example adventure. Life paths, got it. Yay, life path. Life paths are a great thing to help people make their characters and start the role playing. Just roll a few rolls on these if you don't really know your character's personality or whatever and how they grew up or whatever. And then you're like, oh yeah, my character's kind of sickly. And he's son of a preacher man. The only man to ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. The only son to ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. And then what events shaped your life? Oh, you went to prison, whatever. No, these take up too much wasted space. They could be definitely some wasted space here, guys. Yeah. Oh my God, that's too much wasted space. Here's the character record sheet, which hurts my eyes. Why choose to play it out this way? I don't understand what I'm looking at. What Why? Oh, I'm supposed to print it out and fold it over, I guess. So print this page out, and then there's the fold, and there's the front, and there's the back. Unusual choice. That literally hurts my eyes to look at because my brain's trying to make it work. But yeah, you know, it's the year zero system. If you know year system, you know this. Then we've got the index. Apparently that's an important thing you should have in your game, and that's what the back cover is. So there we go, 240 pages of spooky goodness. Spooky, 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 spooky. World building, fluff, system, mysteries. There is some wasted space, but for Free League, it's pretty decent. I mean, it's not the usual wasted amount of Free League wasted space, and the art is limited, which is good. Setting it during a time period that most of us either know about or can look up, relatively easy, helps a lot. Setting it on Earth helps a lot. You know, basing it on a real culture, a real folklore, real mythology, real legends, real fairy tales. That's always an iffy equation. You know, am I going to piss somebody off if I don't present it? Am I going to, you know, be accused of cultural appropriation because, oh, you didn't actually get any Nordic shamans to research the game for you? Yeah, that would be kind of hard since most of them died in the early 19th century. Nope. Yeah, you know, all that shit that you go through whenever you make a game based upon a culture that exists or a society or a group of individuals. There's always going to be pushback. These guys look like they did their due diligence. It does help that, you know, the writers and creators are from that part of the world. So this is their back door. This is what they grew up on, you know, just like Tales from the Loop is that guy's childhood. This is what Free League knows. This is their back door. This is their world. So I don't know. I think they did a really good job. Horror role-playing's never been my thing. I don't know why. Of all the role-playing genres, it's probably my least favorite. You know, unless it's like Delta Green style, where it's like, screw it, we're just shooting them. We're just doing all the things that you wish people did in horror movies, you know, and horror TV shows and horror books, where it's like, just shoot them. Just shoot them. You have guns. You have flamethrowers. Just shoot them. So yeah, I like just shoot them style of horror as opposed to, you know, this the Victorian 18th century. We've so many in that time period, but it's understandable because, you know, that's when the birth of pulp and the birth of horror, and that's really the first time where it's, you know, we're getting that stark contrast between the old world and the post-industrialization late 18th century world, you know, because even as early as the 17th century, there was still vast chunks of land that was unexplored. There was still folklore. There was still legends. There were still people afraid to go out at night, and there's still reasons to be afraid to go at night. And then suddenly we have cobblestone roads and lighting and steam and guns, and we're not beholden to religion and folklore and fear. We're beholden now to reason and science, and we're slowly starting to peer behind the veil. And what this story says is, well, the veil's pushing back. You've crossed into the land of fairy for real, and fairy doesn't want you there. And then that brings us to the, you know, the emotional conflict. Wait, am I the bad guy for shooting the fairies? I mean, we are invading their land. We're killing their force. We're changing their way of life, you know. Yeah. So Carnival Row, the role-playing game. Well, that's Vaesen from Free League, which I got as part of the 57 games for $40 Humble Bumble. There's a link down below if you want to pick up your own copy from Drive-Thru. I think the Free League stuff's still on sale, so this is probably $20, $25 right now. I mean, you know, story-wise, history-wise, educational-wise, world-building-wise, It's Free League. They never go wrong. But on the other hand, it's such a specific, do you want to do that, 18th century Victorian era horror in Sweden as opposed to 18th century Victorian era horror in London? Other than that, I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's a niche. And horror is already a niche in the tabletop role-playing game community. Now here's a niche of a niche. Not that you couldn't do that style of horror in other parts of the world, but it is sort of very specific to that time period, that culture, that part of the world. And it feels almost like, well, as a white guy from Southern California, I don't know how to do, Nordic things. I don't know anything about that. I'm a 20th century dude. My answer to these would be shoot them. Anyways, if you appreciate this content, let me know. Please consider supporting me. Remember, this is my job, and the holidays are coming up, so you can buy me a coffee through the Ko-Fi link. You could use my coupon to get yourself some dice from Only Crypt. Awesome dice. My Only Crypt dice are still rolling 18, 19s, and 20s, so they're awesome. But the best way to support me, of course, is to head on over to Drive-Thru and pick up your copies of either one of my amazing products that are on sale. Link down below. Both still marked down to $6. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. I'm losing my voice.
Monsters lurking in the night. Heroes ready for the fight.